What's up, guys? Welcome to the Smooch and Release Show, where we talk about fishing and smooch and release. So recently, we went on to a trip down to Jersey for 2 days, and it turned out to be a huge success. I'm gonna let Brian start. Go ahead. How did we come up with this plan? How did we get fishing with the person we went fishing with? And what was your expectations?
All right, well, this time of year, New Jersey always has, they're getting the fish that we've already had. So the fish are migrating past Long Island and they're heading down to Jersey. So we figured, let's go to Jersey. Let's get out on this guy's boat. So I work with Gray Fish Tag Research, and I know that there's a captain out of northern New Jersey, out of Highlands, New Jersey, that could possibly get us out. So I made contact with him and made arrangements to get Paulie and I out on his boat. And that's Chuck Manny from the Tie Man. That's the name of his boat. And so we set it up, and at first we thought it was going to be like right away. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, he gave us a date like 2.5 weeks away. And I'm like, God, I hope the fish are still there. So as that progressed, as we got closer, I'm saying, well, we're going to have to leave the dock at the crack of dawn. I mean, to get to that part of Jersey, it's a 2-hour ride, at least 2.5 hour ride. I don't want to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get there in time. So I said, let's go the day before. So if we're going to go the day before, let's surf fish it. So, I let Paulie know. I was like, we're gonna go the day before. I booked the hotel, and we'll spend the day on the beach. And as we got closer, Paulie was like, maybe we should bring stuff and go black fishing. And I'm like, I didn't want to totally discount that, because let's face it, if the surf wasn't doing anything, then blackfish would be a good alternative at some of the jetties. But my goal really was to get on bass out of the surf in Jersey. So I ended up bringing like 6 rods that were strictly for blackfish. I brought all of my tog jigs that I make, and I was totally planning on doing blackfish and catching blackfish and finally eating at least one blackfish. And we planned on cooking too. Yeah. So in preparation, I took some chicken out of the freezer, had some venison tenderloins, which, by the way, I have eaten.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they were delicious. I had them for breakfast the other morning. I made steak and eggs.
Nice.
So we brought stuff we were going to barbecue. So day one, we get up. It was last Tuesday. And Paulie met at my house. We left my house around 5, quick stop at 7-Eleven, and on the road we went. Hardly any traffic, a little bit on the normal Belt Parkway. And we got down to Sandy Hook National Park at about 10 after 7, quarter after 7.
It's wasted. It's still too hot.
And, we pulled into the parking lot, and Paulie had fallen asleep. So when I stopped the truck and he looks up and wakes up and he says, "What made you choose this parking lot?" So I really didn't have a real good reason for choosing that one, other than it was the furthest one into the park that I could see on the map anyway. And it looked like it was the closest parking lot to the water. Like all the other parking fields was like a heck of a walk to get down to the water.
It was.
So we said, he's like, I was like, let's get out there. Let's give it a shot. And then we'll see what we can do, we'll see what we can put together. So we got geared up. We were down at the water's edge at 7:30. By 8 o'clock, I had 3 fish. I was throwing a top water plug with a teaser, and I'm thinking that the fish were feeding on sand eels or something small, because they kept grabbing the teaser as it danced along the top with the top water plug. And I managed to get 3 fish at that parking field. And that's when Paulie switched over to a teaser, and the fish were gone then.
Yeah. I took all the time in the world to just tie on a teaser. And it wasn't even like a legit teaser. I had a 1/4 ounce bucktail that I tied, found it in my backpack, did a little dropper loop, threw the bucktail on there, and then all the fish were gone. Yeah.
So that at that point we were like, all right, let's run and gun this. Let's find fish. You know, we had the whole day ahead of us, so it was only like 8:30 at this point, and so we said, all right, let's head down further. So we shot all the way to. So we were at parking field E. We shot all the way to parking field A. And I sent the scout out to go check it out. I says, go see if there's anything going on before we walk down there.
This parking lot was farther from the water. But yeah, I mean, I'm walking down. I leave the truck. I start walking down to the beach. And this guy's coming off and he's like, they're here. I'm like, all right. So I just turn around. And, you know, I waited for him. I started talking to him and asking what they were catching on. He was throwing shads and he was catching them. And there was this guy fly fishing, and there was another guy down there. So there was like 3 guys on the beach already by the time we got down. And yeah, it was a long walk.
It was longer than before. It's not as long as some walks that we've done, but it was a longer walk. So we grabbed our stuff, got down to the water's edge. We both cast it out. I had a couple of hits on the first cast it out again, and all of a sudden I look at it in my video, and the best of what I could tell is I had 2 fish grab. One grabbed the plug, one grabbed the teaser, and the one that grabbed the plug was definitely a bigger fish, and it started flipping out of the water. And
you watched your video?
Yeah,
okay.
And it was dancing, and I mean, it just kept flipping out of the water, and all of a sudden my line went slack. So I think the teaser fish was swimming toward me and the other fish was swimming away, and they literally ripped the leader in half.
What pound is your leader?
That was 30.
Oof.
Yeah, that was 30 because that was 30 fluoro, because I had just made those with the tsunami teasers that I got.
Jeez.
So I caught up to it, and I brought in the smaller of the 2 fish, which ended up being it was an inch over slot. It was a 32-inch fish. So it was a decent fish, but leads me to believe that the one that swam away with my $20 plug was a much nicer fish, because at the same time, Paulie hooks in.
Yeah. I hook into a fish. So this is the same time. So this is when I hook into a fish, and maybe there's one guy to our left and maybe one guy to our right, and he hooks in. I hook in right after him, and all it is that's all it was. It just didn't stop. And I was fighting fish. He was fighting fish. He pulls his fish in. He goes to tag it. He releases the fish. I'm still fighting my fish. I'm over here thinking like I have a foul hooked fish just at the size of his fish, you know, like I didn't expect to catch a large fish, you know, I didn't expect to have a fantastic surf trip, but I'm like, yeah, no, it's foul hooked. So I'm fighting it, finally get it up into the wash and everything, and he's just sitting there like a stingray, just stuck on the bottom, and you're fighting this thing, and he's not moving. And then he washes up in the surf, and all of a sudden this thing's sitting off the ground like that much. And like, oh shoot, it's not foul hooked. So at this point I planned on a foul hooked fish, and a small one, and I just, bring them up. So I'm like, Brian, I don't need your help. And I'm like, okay, just kidding, I need your help. Because, I was already walking up on the beach, and there's this big old fish, just this fatty right there in the surf. I'm not pulling him because I don't want to snap off my line on a big fish. But he helps me pull up this fish, and we bring it up to the beach. I can barely carry this thing, freezing. It's early in the morning. I didn't eat anything. I'm super tired. And we get it up, and we go to tag it. We measure it. What was the length on that one?
43.
43. So it was a 43-inch striped bass that we tagged for Gray Fish Research, or Gray Fish Tag. And that thing was insane compared to all the other fish that you'll hear about and you'll see in the other videos. This fish was like double the width of all the other fish that we caught. It was just
engorged with, I'm thinking bunker, because there was tons of peanut bunker in the area. So I think it was just so engorged with bunker that it was just totally fatted out.
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Full of bunker.
It had already eaten its Thanksgiving dinner because it was just a fat fish. So for 43 inches, we're estimating it was 40 plus pounds, just over 40 pounds, 42 maybe.
Yeah.
But definitely a 40-pound fish. Really.
Text messages. But,
so
yeah, I mean, we were catching fish. We'll do a little spoiler. We were catching fish in that size range a lot, and we weighed them at about, what was it, 36 to 38-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So this one being nearly double the size of any other fish had to be over 40. But yeah, we pull this fish up, we tag it, we take some pictures for the website for the research, and we go to release it. And man, there's something crazy that goes through your head when you're holding a giant fish by the tail and letting it just revive inside the water.
And the tail is
this thick.
It's
Yeah.
as big as your hand.
It's like, holy cow, this is not a small fish. And he was obviously eating for a long time, just munching away for weeks and weeks, because it was a thick fish all the way around. It wasn't just the belly. And you're holding that tail, and it's like you're looking at a tuna tail. It's this huge fish, and it finally revives and kicks off strong. And there's something good about that feeling. And I'm glad we went early. We didn't go for blackfish, and we caught some stripers. But the crazy thing, this is New Jersey, because I've never seen this on Long Island. Maybe guys are just stuck in their trucks, but by the time that I had gathered everything up and made sure the cameras were all good for the next thing, there were guys on their phones. So if you're from Jersey and you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Guys are on their cell phones looking down at us and just making phone calls. Like, what the heck is going on? Phone calls on the beach? It's like they sent out a scout in this whole, I don't know, within 15 minutes, there were like 50 guys on the beach. And we're fishing
they're people, they're guys that actually live in the sand, like bugs.
Like little crabs.
Like the beach was infested, because all of a sudden, after we got his fish revived and released, a guy's casting right in front of me. Like where did he come from? Those Star Wars guys that come out of the sand.
Right.
They just popped up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden there's like 15 guys around us.
Yeah.
Like literally casting right in front of me. Like you can't cast in front of you. You have to cast in front of me because that's where the fish are.
Yeah, as if the fish didn't move the entire beach. Like,
yeah.
Whatever, man. Yeah, they're like fiddler crabs. So we have this saying for when people, there's a couple sayings. I'll say this one. When people don't have waders on and they just have shoes and jeans and everything, we call those guys piping plovers, because they'll run down when the wave goes down, take a cast, and run back so they don't get wet, just like the piping plovers. But we can call these guys fiddler crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come up out of the sand.
They come out of the sand and they just pop up. Cell phone and everything. And that's not our only experience with cell phones.
Yeah.
It was, so.
Yeah, so that was, Sandy Hook turned out to be a success. But after that, the fish moved on again. And we tried it a little bit longer there. And between being crowded, all the guys crowding around us, and we're not getting any more hits, we said, all right, let's try down at that point. So what we should have done was just walk to that point, because we tried to drive to it, and then we went to the next parking field, and it was actually a longer walk from the parking lot to the point than it was from where we were to that point. So we had to make a couple phone calls, and then we went back to parking A, and we walked out. We walked down to that point, and all the way back, we worked it back, and there was just nothing going on at that point anymore. So we said, let's run and gun. Let's head south. So Paulie goes on Google Maps, and he sees an inlet, and we're like, all right, let's get to that inlet. So we head down towards that inlet. We got to the inlet, and there was like 40 guys on the end of a jetty blackfishing.
Yeah, everyone else was blackfishing. I had the right idea.
Yeah. So, but we did see an area where there was some good bird activity. They were definitely picking away at bait and water, and we were like, well, let's go. And it was really only a couple of blocks back from where the inlet was. So we said, let's go back over there. So we went over there. We got our stuff back on. parked the truck and got down to the beach, and there was nothing going on at first, but we could definitely see there was fish activity out further than we could cast. So just the hope was that those fish were going to come in close enough for us to reach them. So we just start plugging, casually plugging. So then I think I hooked into one, I foul hooked it because it was like pulling in a bus. Yes. I'm like, there's something wrong here, and sure enough, I pull it in and it was sideways, and I just about got it to the surf and then it got off. And I'm like, right, you couldn't have done that like before I dragged you all the way in sideways? Yeah. So we saw the fish were coming in, and we caught a couple, and then Paulie went down further and actually walked out on one of the jetties to get a better angle at them because they were out just off of that jetty like crazy. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to leave fish to go get fish, and this way we'll have two different angles too. And sure enough, those fish came in, and it was just crazy at that point because they're blitzing in front of us. They're blowing bunker right up onto the beach, right up onto the jetty on the rocks where he was, and it was all out chaos. It was like mayhem. Yeah. I couldn't catch them as fast because Paulie probably brought in 3 times the amount of fish I did because I was tagging them. I had all the tagging stuff. So by the time I get a fish in, I carry him up, measure him, tag him, carry him down, release him safely, go back up, reload the tag dart, and then go back to fishing. Paulie had 3 fish in that time frame, so
it was absolute chaos. I have never seen anything quite like this in my life. Like you said, they were pushing bunker onto the beach. You were standing, and all it was bunker at your feet, stripers eating at your feet, and you could pick whatever striper you wanted. If you had good accuracy, you could pitch a little jig at them, and then all of a sudden you just watch it, boom, you're hooked into a striper. It was bonkers. Yeah, we were catching fish like it was nothing, like it was going out of style. And the way that it is over there, just south of Sandy Hook, they have jetties every couple hundred yards. And then where I was, there was actually this pipe in between the 2 jetties, so it made it a little bit smaller. And these bass were just throwing bunker inside here, and it was just, you could walk across the bunker. It was absolutely insane. The waves would come up and there'd be bunker and stripers and the waves crashing down. Man, it was like, I was surprised I didn't get any in my mouth.
At one point, my video, you hear me say, "This is just like you see in those videos on YouTube." And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't going to be a YouTube video. Because I've seen guys fishing. I've never had that on Long Island. I've never had the bunker being pushed right up on the beach. But I've seen, guys fishing in Jersey where it seems to happen pretty frequently. And to actually witness that, it was fantastic. Yeah. And then we caught a bunch of fish, and then all of a sudden I hook into a nice fish, and I'm like, wow, this feels pretty good. And then as I'm getting it in closer, and it's quite a fight, and I'm saying, wow, wait a minute, I think there's 2 on there. So I'm like, all right, that explains it. I got a double header. I'm fishing a teaser rig with a lure, and I'm fighting them. And then all of a sudden I get him up, and it was kind of like Paulie's reaction when he caught the big one. I'm like, wow. I'm like, oh, shoot. So the first one was a nice fish. It was a 28 or 29 inch fish, but the one behind it was 42 inches, and ended up, I got him on the bogus scale, and he weighed out at 30 pounds. So it was a 30-pound fish and a 10-pound fish. So I had 40 pounds of fish swimming in 2 different directions. I was like, well, that explains it big time. So, I mean, that's actually my biggest striper out of the surf. My biggest, by an inch. But in weight, it's like 5-6 pounds heavier. My biggest had been 41 at that point. So this was 42 inches, but it was 5 pounds heavier because they're just so fat because they've been doing nothing but feeding on all that bunker. So that was a nice surprise.
Yeah, that was what I didn't expect blitzing like that at all.
And then the action slowed up just a little bit, and we're like, man, I am starving.
We should go eat breakfast at 2:30.
So I look at the phone and I'm like, dude, it's 2:00. We got to eat. You know, I'm a diabetic. I got to eat every so often, you know. So
and I can go a couple days without eating.
Yeah. He's used to not eating. So we're like, all right, the action seems pretty quiet. So we said, all right. So we walk back up to the truck and we break out lunch. We're eating lunch. And I'm on the phone with Roxanne from Gray Fish Tag. And I'm watching the water. And she says, you sound a little distracted. I was like, you've no idea what I'm watching right now. There's fish blowing bait right out of the water. I'm like, we gotta, she's like, all right, go catch fish. I'll talk to you later. So we were like, all right, hurry up, eat. So we ate our lunch real quick and we got back down to the water and we caught a bunch more fish. And it really turned into definitely way better than we had anticipated. Than I anticipated. And Paulie planned on blackfishing, so we know it was way better than he anticipated.
Definitely caught heavier fish.
I mean, I could have gotten into some blackfishing if there was no bass around, but with that kind of activity with the stripers. So you know, you see the front of my truck, and we got how many rods in the front seat? Paulie's sitting in the front seat.
I'm sitting sideways like this.
Because I brought 3 surf rods. Now I'm only using 1, you know, because you always want to have a backup. And I brought a lighter rod, which really I probably could have used. Would have been fun with that 30-pounder though.
You said something was up with your line though.
Yeah, I was that I need to change that line on that stall. But you know, and then we each had a couple of rods if we were going to blackfish. I actually brought my jigging rod that I was going to bring out on the boat the next day.
I had 5 blackfish rods. I had 2 surf rods. Yeah, all in the front of a ram.
I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I had 5 or 6 rods. So all those rods are in the front seat with Paulie. So then when we
in my waders and boots, by the way.
Yeah. So we fished, and that area was called Avon by the Sea. We fished there until sundown, until sunset. We actually we saw good blitz happening off the front of the next jetty. So we all right, let's get over there. So we walk. By the time we hit the jetty, that blitz was gone.
It was there the entire time.
The whole
entire
walk.
We start walking to the jetty, get halfway down the jetty, and they're like, yeah, no, and then darted back to where we started. It was like, what the heck? It's like they knew we were coming, and they just were like,
So once it died off, I mean, it was a beautiful sunset, but you could definitely tell it was getting cold quick. Not that it was ever really that warm because it was so windy that day. We had northwest winds, which was good for fishing because, you know, it was kind of at your back, a little bit at your left ear, but at your back. So it didn't affect how big, you know, our cast other than maybe a little sweep. So it was getting colder. We said, all right, let's head back. Let's head out. We'll go to the hotel. So on the way to the hotel, we're like, barbecue? We're gonna freeze barbecuing out here.
Let's cook food.
Let's
save
cook
money.
Yeah. So needless to say, we got to the hotel and we're like, I don't want to do that. So we're like, all right, Applebee's sounds good. Let's go to Applebee's. So we went to Applebee's for dinner, and then came back and to finish filling out all the tags for the day and logging the tags into the system while Paulie fell asleep. And
I was out at what, like 8:30 or something?
Yeah.
Dude.
Because I started. It took me a half hour to log the tags, and I was done by 9:30.
Yeah.
And then I went. Yeah. So you fell asleep around 8:30, I guess.
I couldn't do it.
But tired, it was a long day. I mean, we were up at 4:00 in the morning. And then you're out in that wind. I mean, we got back to the hotel, and I what was I looking at? I was looking at one of the pictures he took or something, and I'm like, is my face really that sunburnt? Oh, when we were at Applebee's.
Yeah.
I'm like, is my face really that sunburnt? Holy smokes. It's November. I shouldn't be getting that sunburnt unless I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
But, so day one was just really blessed.
Phenomenal.
Really blessed.
Yeah.
You know, We didn't have any other than losing a few plugs, but that's just a normal day fishing the surf.
Yeah, with 30-pound test
to lose
40-pound fish
to lose a couple of plugs. So I would definitely plan on doing. I mean, it really wasn't any worse than driving a Montauk.
It was probably easier than driving. For some reason, like I used to be able to get to Montauk in an hour and 45 minutes. Every time I've been to Montauk this year has been over 2 hours to 2.5 hours with no traffic. Like, I didn't speed through those places. I had an older truck than I do now. So it's like, it was easier to go there than Montauk. But
yeah, it's just a little more expensive because you got to cross 2 bridges.
Yeah, gotta love the bridges. But even still, like, the dates that we had planned here, from my knowledge, I just didn't expect to catch fish this time of year. Or at least big fish this time of year.
Right, we thought to get into decent fish, you'd have to go much further south.
I mean, there were bigger fish down there, but
yeah, Island Beach, and south of that.
Because even the big fish by us, like, we would catch nice fish, or people would catch nice fish around September, October by us, but they're still catching big fish as of when we were down in Jersey. As of last week, we were all still catching 40-plus fish. 40-plus inch fish here on Long Island, and it's just, that's to me abnormal. Like, you can catch them out on the boats and stuff like that. Guys are catching fish there, good sized fish, because you can find them, you can track them. But from the beach, I mean, I really expected not much to come from Jersey this time of year.
Yeah.
So, like, even if we want to plan it next year, if we have different weather or it's colder or warmer or whatever, like, we can't even technically plan this trip again this time of year. We have to, like, say,
you almost have to say
fish in
October.
Yeah. But definitely do it again.
Oh, if not more frequently.
Yeah, maybe even a spring trip. The fish are coming back up or out of
because
sitting in the Raritan.
May off of I know.
Yeah.
I'm doing this Northeast Striper study that we do in May, and last year we had 18 fish over 30 pounds, up to 48 pounds.
I mean, not to be a spoiler or anything, but part 2 of this, I mean, we had 20 fish over 30 pounds.
Yeah.
It was like, we had a good captain. We had a very good captain this
by
week.
far one of the best captains out there. So part 2 is going to be good. So stay tuned.
Part 2 is going to be great. Yeah, so you have some tags over there. We'll talk about it again in part 2, but if you, for everyone asking, like, oh, we're tagging fish, we're doing this, we're doing that. So what are we technically doing? Why did we make this Jersey trip? Because the whole thing was to tag fish.
Right. So when I touched base with Chuck from the Time Man, I had told him, I said, because he's, he posts picture all the time on social media of fish that he gets his, I don't want to call them clients, but for lack of another term, I'll say the guys that he takes out on the boat, his clients. So, he gets them out and gets them on, his target is always fish that are bigger than 44 inches, preferably 50-pound fish. So preferably, yeah. Like, oh, really? So
30-pounder?
Yeah. So I said to him, I said, how do I get me and another YouTube buddy out on your boat to do a day of documented fish tagging? Because I've been tagging for Gray Fish Tag now for this is my 4th season, and he tags for Gray Fish Tag, and he's one of the big sponsors. His family is a big sponsor of Gray Fish Tag, especially the Northeast Striper study. So the goal was obviously to get out with him and tag some nice big fish. So in doing that, of course, I tag all the time. So any fish that I'm not going to keep, especially striped bass, I want to get a tag in. I've tried to get this guy to do it too, but he's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Tag fish?
Yeah, I know. Because he doesn't want to take the time that it takes to tag fish. But anyway, so the tags that we use, so this is what a tag card looks like. And on there it has, you can name the fish, so you can name it whatever you want, as long as it's clean.
Appropriate.
Appropriate, yeah, I like that word. So you need an appropriate name, and then the date of the catch, the species, the body of water you caught it in, the length, whether it was an estimated measurement or a measured length, total length, or to the fork, I forget a fork length, an estimated weight, the condition of the fish, the bait, the type of bait it was used, whether it was live, dead, or a lure, if the fish already had a tag in it. I know on the party boat, we've actually caught a couple of tagged fish. They were Littoral Society tags, but for some, they tag it in the belly. In fact, Larry was telling me today, they caught one last week with a littoral tag, and it was like all infected where it was tagged. So the gray fish tag, we do not do the belly tag. It's always up by the dorsal fin so that you're putting it in, I'll say the meat, which, because if you filleted that fish, that would be the fillet. That's the meat. There's no vital organs.
Yeah, all of that. And then if they're sitting on the bottom,
yeah,
if there's parasites or something sitting in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then it has your name and address and phone number and stuff so they can contact you if it's recaptured. And, the boat name or captain's name. Now, we do a lot of surf, so with my tags, I'm always the captain, whether it's Paulie's fish or my fish. I'm the captain, and the boat name ends up being Surf because we're fishing from the surf. And then with the tagging kit, you always get a tagging stick. So this is what a tag looks like, and Paulie can do a close-up of that. And on the tag, it says reward, and it has a phone number for Grayfish Tag, and it has their website. You can go on grayfishtag.org, and there's a tag number, like this is tag GFR 62888. Now I need glasses, and reading glasses, and I can read the number. For some reason, the fluorescent on this tag allows me to actually read the information on it. So you say
if you're
it's
old and blind,
you can still read these tags.
No excuses.
And the phone number 818-448-248-353.
Make a commercial out of that.
Right? So you can read the tags. The tag goes in the tag stick. On striped bass, the best way to do it is to kind of pluck a scale off where you're going to stick the tag, and then it's much easier. You can't push this thing through a scale, especially on those big fish. Definitely got to pluck one scale off. You pop that scale off, you stick it in, and the tag is barbed, so it sticks in like that because it has this little barb down here. And you measure the fish. I always have 2 or 3 of these, plus I have a bigger tape measure. Definitely don't want to have only one of these because sometimes this little end breaks off and then it goes and it sucks it in there.
Smash.
I go through one of these almost every time I go on the party boat.
Nice.
This one is actually still wet from today and smells like fish.
How many did you tag today?
I tagged 11 fish today. So that's the tagging process that we do. And then you go in at the end of the day, you finish filling out your tags with your latitude and longitude for a detailed location of where the fish was tagged. And you go onto the website and you go into log catch and you log each one of your tags in. And it doesn't take very much time. I can log a tag into the system in less than 2 minutes or thereabouts if there's a photo that you have to find. I like doing it on the iPad because it's a little easier. It's actually quicker if I do it on the computer, but then the pictures are on the iPad and that becomes a hassle.
Hassles.
But if you're not adding photos with them, on my laptop is much quicker because I can type quicker on that than I can on my iPad.
She's just old. Yeah, poor Erica. She's one finger.
Hunt pecker?
Yeah, I guess so. So who can actually do this? I mean,
you know what? Anybody that wants to get involved can be part of the Gray Fish Tag program. Anybody can tag. If you go out fishing and you catch a bunch, you consistently catch fish, like it really doesn't pay for somebody that goes out once a month to tag one fish a month. And not that we want to discount anybody in that way, but I know guys go out all the time. Let's take a guy like Paulie, even if he didn't have a YouTube channel, and he goes out fishing as often as he does and catches as many fish as he does. he should be tagging fish. I know other guys that fish their kayaks and catch hundreds of striped bass a year. If you were tagging half of those fish for research, that's the goal. Is the more tags we can get into fish to get that information where they're traveling. So when these fish are recovered, somebody can read that tag, put that information into the Great Fish Tag website, log it in as a recovery, and it'll tell you how long that fish was out there between the time it was tagged and the time it was recovered. And it'll tell you where it was tagged and where it was recovered. And it's actually really, really cool to find that information out. You know, if you tagged a fish off of Montauk and all of a sudden it's caught off the coast of New Jersey a year later in the same time frame, you're like, all right, how are these fish traveling? Well, that's where the Gray Fish Tag program comes in with satellite tags. You know, now, obviously, we would love to put satellite tags on, 50 fish a year, but at the cost of a satellite tag, that's not happening right now until we can get the sponsorships and people to come on board financially and support the program, because Gray Fish Tag is a non-profit organization. So everything that we do is paid for by sponsors, contributors, the charter captains that do the tagging. They take clients out and they tag fish, and since you can't keep most fish now, they're either over. Most of them are over because charter captains aren't really going out catching unders. But I'd say 90% of the fish you catch are too big to keep anyway. So let's get some tags in those fish so we can see where they're going next. And you see so a client goes out and they say, well, I can't keep a fish, but I can tag this fish and I can name it. And the next person that catches it is going to let me know, and that it definitely adds to their trip.
We've had that happen a couple times where our fish would be recovered and it's like, no way, really? Where was it? And I mean, your fish story is crazy. Where you caught it and where it ended up. What the heck?
Yeah, fish caught in the Great South Bay in November, was recaptured almost up in the Catskill Mountains in the Hudson River, all the way up the Hudson River in May.
How big was that fish?
And that was like a 22-inch fish.
A 22-inch striper, a little tiny dude, ended up all the way in the Catskills from the Great South Bay. Like, what the heck is it doing up there, especially in May? Like, that's a little dude. I mean, he's not breeding.
Yeah.
He's not spawning. He's not doing anything. That water is cold. Like, if there's a fish up in the Catskills, like, some people think that the stripers move down south because it's warmer and follow the bait. It's where the bait's moving, all that stuff. But it's like, you're up in the Hudson River in the freezing cold water. Like, are there fish up north over by Maine? Is there fish in freezing temperature water? Like, I don't know. It's just these crazy things that these tags allow you to see. And I think when you finally get a tag that's recovered of your fish, it's like, wow, I did something cool. So you post on Instagram, you reached 100 tags. This year alone, we had a goal for 100 tags in the spring. Yep. And really in the spring, we thought we were going to make it a lot quicker than we actually did.
Because the way the spring started, Paulie and I, we started fishing in March. And
Which
we're
is
like,
crazy.
Like night one was like, I don't know, it was like what, 2 or 3 fish? And then night 2 was like, oh, here's 8 more, 10 more. And we're like, oh, we're going to do this no problem. All of a sudden, it was like May, and the areas that we fish in May, we didn't do as well as we did the previous year. Yeah. Although he did have one fantastic night, but he doesn't tag if I'm not there. And I wasn't there, so they didn't tag. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, the bluefish came in early. Yeah, and once the blues come in, it's like hard to get to the bass in our back bay areas that we fish in the spring. So the blues came in quicker, and the blues lingered around for weeks,
which was a good thing. I mean,
it was good action.
The last couple of years that we were targeting bluefish, they showed up. We had them for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then it just shut down and they were gone. Yeah. But this year we had them for like super early, 5-6 weeks. Like it was gator blues. There weren't even buds on trees, and the bluefish were here. Yeah, like that made no sense to me. But I mean, we were still fishing as often as we were. I mean, it wasn't like we weren't fishing this early the years before, for bass at least. And bass, the blues showed up, and then 100 tags seemed a little bit farther away. But I mean, we tagged a couple small fish throughout the summer. And so you posted on Instagram that you hit 100. What are you at right now?
As of today, we're at 155.
155.
155 striped bass.
You have a bunch of tags over there.
I do.
What does 150 tags look like?
That's a good question. I don't know how many are in these bundles, but I'm gonna say, well, so this stack, this is two seasons 2020, 2021, and 2022. And then this stack is 2023. So you can see how much more tagging we're doing. And, and Gray Fish Tag is an all species tagging program. So it's not just striped bass. So like in 2023, I glanced through them earlier. So we know there's 155 striped bass, there's 10 bluefish in here, there's about 4 or 5 fluke, and an oyster toadfish, and a green bonita. So I didn't get into tons of species. Like normally I would tag a couple of porgies, big porgies, blackfish. Yeah, we tagged a few blackfish last year. I had some freshwater stuff in Florida, some peacocks and whatnot. But so 150, 160. This is probably about 180
total
tags.
And that's not including the ones that we tag with Chuck.
Correct. And it's not including the tags from the May striper study that I'm the angler for. So there's 8 tags there, and 13 from Chuck's boat. So
not bad. That's fun.
So it's definitely a successful season. I mean, like I said, the goal was 100 tags, and we hit that just before we went to Jersey. Right? Yeah. So I hit that just before we went to Jersey, and since then, between the Jersey fish, and I did a party boat on Friday and another one today. So now, like I said, we're up to 155 striped bass tags this year. And really we're not done, because I still plan on fishing, just not going to get out as frequently.
There's still stripers around.
And we have our back river, back bay spots or tidal creeks where the fish hold over year round. That we'll still fish, and I'll tag some fish there. I tagged a bunch of small ones recently that I'm curious to see, if somebody recaptures those, and if they're still in those areas where we tag them, if they're just resident fish for that area.
Hey, if they sit there, that'd be good knowledge. Like, there's always fish here. There's always this fish here.
Yeah. So I'd really like to see one of those little guys recaptured in that area to see if they're resident fish.
I mean, I've gotten a lot of DMs about this, which is why we're doing this too. Like, we went out to tag some fish. Of course, we wanted to get a tagging video in and make sure we got some good, nice fish for the end of the year. But also, we're doing this because we get DMs about whether or not they should pull the tags. Should they pull the tags out of the fish?
No. If you can get the information off the tag without pulling it out of the fish, especially if you're going to return the fish to the water. If it's not a slot fish and you're not keeping it, by all means, leave the tag in it. Because
take a picture of the tag.
Yeah, take a picture of it. And this way, when you release it, you become part of the chain. That fish gets recaptured again, and then you get contacted and I get contacted to get that data. So then all of a sudden you got 3 points of contact with this fish, and you really get more of a pattern. So obviously, the more people that catch it and return it to the water with the tag in it, the better. As long as there's nothing wrong with the tag, obviously sometimes the fish, they get a little growth around the tag, or, it may bump up, but, like we said, heck, I've seen fish swimming around with a heel bite mark, you know, with a giant chunk missing out of it.
Yep.
Or that bluefish that I caught that was like an S.
Yep.
You know, at some point somebody either bounced it off of...
took it by the tail and just went...
Today on the party boat, a guy actually caught one of those striped bass that you see the pictures of, that it's like the face is like a bulldog.
Right.
I had never actually seen one of those other than in pictures, and this older feller that I helped get him in, he caught one, and I'm like, hey, it's one of those guys. He had the lip that stuck out and his whole top of his face. And one of the mate was saying that a lot of times that's due to gill nets. They get stuck in a net for a time, and it screws up the way their face grows.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's true. I think
that's a whole new topic.
I think it's just an ugly fish.
Right.
You know, you have ugly people, you have ugly fish.
Yeah, okay, I guess so. So, yeah, I mean, day one was a heck of a trip.
Definitely.
I can't wait to start talking about like day two, because it's like, okay, wake up.
Yeah, somebody didn't want to get up.
But hey, I'm glad we got up, and I can't wait to start talking about day two.
Yep.
You know, it's gonna be a good conversation to have, because it's different. It's a different experience. At least for me, it's a different experience going on a boat. I've been on a couple boats, targeting big stripers. I went with Greg from Fisherman's Headquarters, and we ended up having to hand line in my 30 plus.
That was a crazy.
And yeah, I mean, I think that was my only time that I actually went out and targeted stripers from a boat, besides, you know, your boat. But yeah, so it's going to be a cool conversation from my perspective and from your perspective, because this is your third time going to target stripers exclusively? You went on two.
Yeah.
All right. So
2 striper studies, and then this trip.
All right. So we'll talk about the striper study in part 2. We're going to talk about day 2 in part 2. It's gonna. I can't wait to show the footage from that. I reviewed it today and started editing the photos, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is some good video. So I can't wait to actually put out part 2 on Get Real Bass Fishing. And, you know, he's got content on his. We're going to share content, make a really cool video, and do a cool collab. But again, just sitting down here and having a conversation about fishing. I mean, I could do this every single week. I could talk about fishing.
If you're interested in a podcast,
let us know in the comment section below, because we have so many fishing stories to tell.
You want to hear fishing stories over the winter instead of watching the Hallmark Channel?
There you go.
We're here.
There you go. Yeah, so make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, and make sure you are following. Hit that thumbs up. That way the algorithm's like, this guy wants to watch some more of the Smooch and Release Show. So that's going to help by hitting that thumbs up. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Besides just fishing stories, we can incorporate a lot of different things inside here. I don't even know how long we've been talking. It's got to be over a half hour already.
No, I would think so.
So, like, we've been fishing together since 2009. Yeah, 2009. So we have a lot of stories, freshwater and saltwater, that we can talk about. We can just go back and tell stories about things, and how we caught fish, and how we felt, and what brought us to certain situations, and this and that. But I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, we have different people on. We know a lot of people that fish. So we can have a lot more people sitting in these chairs, and maybe have to expand to a third chair.
And we could even do it in different places.
Yeah. Like, dude, his garage. Oh my god.
We got the garage. We got my man cave upstairs.
His bedroom. Oh my.
It's actually my living room.
His living room. Oh my gosh, dude. My fishing room. Even behind me, I got a couple striped bass mounts. Like, just the different angles alone. But all right, I guess we'll end it here instead of just rambling on. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the support. Go check out the actual video from what we were just talking about on the Get Real Bass Fishing YouTube channel. I'll link that down below, and his channel. I don't know if his video is going to be up by the time this one goes out, but go subscribe to that anyway. That way, when he does upload, if it's not uploaded already, you get notified. And we're gonna
still have a video from September I have to edit.
I actually have so many videos to edit that I just, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Stay real, smooch and release, and have some fun on the water. We'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
Cheers. my not boiling hot chocolate.
You can finally drink it.
That's good. Congratulations. That was